right, Christopher's question is up next. Hey guys, big fan. I'm 24 years old. How can I approach my $13K in credit card debt? I have roughly $30K in assets, and I was thinking a ballast transfer to maximize zero interest for 21 months. Thoughts?
So $13K in credit card debt. What's the $30,000?
That's what his assets are. So I'm assuming like savings, investments, that kind of thing.
We don't know if they're retirement, though.
I hope that's what it is. Because for young people, oftentimes I got $30,000 in assets and $12,000 that's a car.
Oh, that's true.
And a couple grand is home furnishing. So can we answer this question so it'd be super, super, super valuable? Let's assume that the $30,000, Brian, was in liquid assets.
Okay.
Right? Let's assume that
you're meaning like it's probably in a retirement account
retirement
or Roth.
accounts or something like that. And then, I've got this $13,000 of credit card debt. What do I do? How do I approach this? And then I think the question, like the blocking and tackling was, should I do like a 0% balance transfer? What's the solution there? No matter what our answer is here, we think that credit card interest is something that can be incredibly punitive. Like you think about a really good rate of return and what that can do for your financial life, but then you think about credit card interest and how punitive it can be. That's why in the financial order of operations, Brian, we hold your thing up. That's why we put high interest. It just doesn't have the same thing to it. It's why we put it a step 3. We want that to be something that you prioritize getting out of as quickly as you can. So even hearing that you have $30,000 in assets suggests to me that you've probably been saving, probably been building up. I would guess that means you've gotten a little out of order of the foo. And I think that reprioritizing and knocking out that $13,000 ought to be like priority number 1. You agree with that, Brian?
Yeah, I think if you got $13,000 of credit card debt and you now woken up to realize, hey, I've got to get through this, I think you almost even need to take a period where you just don't even use the credit cards.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Just shut it down. And now we're in the process. How do we pay this off? And we'll come back and revisit the question of credit card use after this is completely extinguished. The debt, those balance transfers, realize that you're kind of making a deal with a loan shark, is that you have to... It's very similar to all the movie plots you've ever seen where people go and they get themselves out of bonds by going to the shady lending companies and others. It could work out great if you create a plan. I would really put on my 3D glasses, and that's where I want you to run 3 plans. Your dream. This is where I really hope things work. The down to earth plan. This is where, this is the reality of how things are going to play out, where you maybe have some ups and downs in life financially. And then I want you to have the do-do plan of what happens if all of a sudden you can't pay off that credit card after the 21 months or whatever you said that you could get the 0%. And then figure out if there is a path forward that lets you, and then make a promise to yourself. Because that's one of the things I cover in Millionaire Mission. Is I made an access to cash disaster of a decision with a home equity line. Yours is credit card, so it's different, but it still is. I promised myself and even said some prayers that if I got myself out of this, I would never, ever, ever, ever fall in this trap again. And then you fight like, heck, how about cussed? You fight as hard as you can to get yourself out of it in that things, and you don't compromise. You actually have to go hard on it, because that's the thing. Nobody who's successful that comes to see us as prospects ever shows up with credit card debt. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And that's why when people ask us about bankruptcy as a tool and all these other debt restructuring questions, I'm like, I have no idea how any of that stuff works, because the reality is that good financial mutants don't struggle with this type of debt. This is a trap that's put out there by our consumption society, and you've got to figure out how you get post this debt. And that's why I would go cold turkey on not using credit cards. Maybe you can use the 0% tool, but make sure you read all the fine print, because those things can also be gotchas.
I did see him chatting with some people in our chat and just kind of saying like, it's just, I've been paying them off. I'm not really using the credit cards anymore, but that interest rate, it's just, I hate that interest rate. But I don't want him to like try to cut the corner off. Like, I don't know, like just as a fellow financial mutant layperson, it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of part of it. Like, just keep going.
I just feel like, I feel like in America we've gotten Americans have gotten way too comfortable with debt. Like if you had a broken leg today, how many things would you do before you address that broken leg? Like nothing. Like you're going to figure out, oh my goodness, my leg is broke. I have to do everything in my power to fix this today. And I feel like we don't do that same thing with credit card debt when realistically, I mean, I'm talking about.
It's not a flesh wound.
How do I get rid of my gym membership? How do I stop eating out? How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? To get rid of this like very bad thing in my life. I mean, I would cut with reckless abandon to get on the other side of it as quickly as possible. Because even thinking about stretching it out over 21 months, I'm like, I'd love for you to figure, I don't know what your income is, but man, how lean can you live at 24 years old to get that stuff gone and not have it come back? I think that's how serious and severe it is.
And do the desperate. I mean, there's seasons of life where I would encourage you to go through your closet, go through. I know this sounds so ridiculous, but when you're in this desperate phase, take our 200-month challenge that I have in Millionaire Mission. But I think about the fact of golf clubs, workout clothes. I mean, because by the way, there's a market on like I don't know how many consumption traps that you've fallen into while you built up this $13,000, but maybe you need to do all the crazy things of cleaning out and selling and reselling some of these things to see, can we turn the 13 into 10 from just what you already have?
Stuff, yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds crazy, and that's what I'm not a latte effect type person. I mean, you guys know I think that it's the big decisions that get most people with their housing and their cars. But when you're in this type of situation, Christopher, there is nothing off limits. This is where do a budget. I mean, gut this budget down to the bare minimum so you know what you're actually supposed to spend. Compare that and track what you're actually spending, and then cut without mercy.